Right, you're going to love this one. It's got absolutely everything. From 2021, this is The Wrong Valentine. I'm Jay Harangue and I've wasted hours of my life watching terrible films.
You should subscribe.
Yes, and if you enjoy it, please press the like button. It really helps me out.
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
This is Emily and she's the main character.
Hi.
She's got no friends. Her dad's dead and her only joy in life comes from a school history club run by Ms. Connolly. Even Ms. Connolly's like, Emily, you need to get a life. And Emily's like, yeah, I know. Emily lives in Stock Footage Manor with her mum, Ashley. Regular viewers of this channel may recognise Stock Footage Manor as the house in Mommy's Deadly Con Artist. Anyway, Ashley's like, Emily, you need to start getting some dick. When I was at school, I was a right slag and it was brilliant.
I'm sorry.
Well, that's not exactly what she says. I'm paraphrasing. She's like, okay, Emily, your birthday's coming up. At least invite one friend. And Emily's like, okay, I'll invite Michelle. So at school, she invites Michelle.
I guess I could eat some cake and stuff. Good.
Ooh, Ashley will be pleased.
Who is that?
What? Is this guy supposed to be hot?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm not having that. This is terrible casting. Look at that hair. He looks like something out of Thundercats. Anyway, this is the new kid, David Olsen, and for plot purposes, he's really good looking.
All right.
Emily's birthday is on Valentine's Day, but it's never been a problem because she's never had a real Valentine. Anyway, it's off to History Club because apparently Emily doesn't have any actual classes. And oh, look, David's in the History Club and Emily's excited. Ms. Connolly's like, sit next to Emily, David. She's really clever and loves history.
Who knows what else you might have in common?
Well, that's totally inappropriate. Later, when Emily's texting on a bridge, David approaches her.
Can you help me out with something?
What do you need?
The 411 on this place.
Wow, so he's got the looks and the chat. Also, look at his teeth. I went to school in California over 30 years ago, and if a kid had one tooth even slightly out of place, they'd come to school in orthodontic headgear that looked like something out of a Saw film. This is shit, but it gets better.
Miss Connolly, she's cool. Remember she said that me and you might have some things in common?
Yeah.
What are you into?
Well, I clearly like to study history.
That's my favorite subject, too.
What? That's not a coincidence. You met half an hour ago at History Club. This is shit. Anyway, later, Emily's telling Mrs. Stein, the guidance counsellor, that she wants to major in history at college. Mrs. Stein has a friend at USC, and she's going to get Emily a meeting with him.
Yeah, sure. That'd be awesome.
Okay, I'll set it up.
Later, Emily bumps into David, and he invites her for coffee after school tomorrow. When Emily gets home, her mum can tell something's up. She's like, okay, what's his name?
David?
David?
The next day after school, it's the coffee date at the Stock Footage Cafe. David tells Emily that he lives on his own because his grandma, who he lived with, died. Emily's like, where are your parents? And David's like, they died in a plane crash.
My father passed away too, a year ago.
What was your dad's name?
Bit of a weird follow-up question.
Yeah.
The next day at History Club, this girl comes in handing out roses and gives one to David.
Emily Marshall, will you accept this rose?
I will.
So it's time for Emily's party and Michelle has arrived, but the doorbell rings. That's right, David is coming too, and he makes a good first impression on Ashley. David needs some help with calculus, and he's heard that Michelle is a math genius.
9 times 7, quick.
63.
Wow.
What?
David's like, well, as you know your times tables, you'll definitely be able to help me with calculus. Later, Emily and David talk privately.
Did you get everything you wanted today?
Almost.
David's like, sorry, but my mum always told me to take things slowly. And then he leaves. But later, when it's dark, Emily sees David staring at her through the window. When Emily wakes up, he's at the front door. She's like, David, it's 7 a.m. What the fuck? And he's like, oh, I thought we could go and get breakfast. She's like, no, I don't think so. And why were you staring at me from outside the house last night? And he's like, oh, I was just sending an email.
Well, that makes sense.
So now Emily thinks David's a bit weird. She tells Michelle about this, but Michelle's like, what's the problem? He was sending an email.
Well, that kind of makes sense, right?
No.
But Emily's like, yeah, I suppose it does. So it's fine. Later at History Club, David says sorry for being too forward. And Emily's like, don't worry, I'm over it. On their way out, Emily gets a text and David's like, who's that? Emily's like, what? Nobody.
Okay, fine. Then show me the text.
It's Michelle.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Hey, don't walk away from me like that. You're embarrassing me.
Oh, dear.
And that incident hasn't gone unnoticed by Ms. Connolly. Later, Emily bumps into this guy Pete who wants to borrow her chemistry notes, so he gives her his email address to send them to.
David!
You can go now.
So can you.
Then Mrs. Stein comes over and she's like, hey, what's going on here? And Emily's like, nothing. When David walks off, Mrs. Stein tells Emily that a friend from USC is coming soon to meet with her, and Emily's really happy. Mrs. Stein then goes to see Ms. Connolly and tells her that she doesn't like David. Ms. Connolly, who witnessed the incident earlier, tells her she doesn't see an issue with him.
What?
You know these kids these days.
Yeah, I suppose. Anyway, after school, David turns up at Emily's mum's work. She's like, what are you doing here? And he's like, oh, I just wanted to pop in and say sorry about your husband dying.
Okay.
It's all really sad.
It is sad.
I'm sure it gets pretty lonely, too.
Wow.
She's like, okay, bye, David. Then she calls Ms. Connolly and tells her that she has some concerns about David's behaviour.
Someone else was just asking me about him.
And Ashley's like, right, he just turned up at my office.
Honestly, David seems like a nice guy.
What? At this point, I was thinking that David and Ms. Connolly must have been involved somehow. But no, that's not the case.
Oh.
Anyway, that conversation has somehow put Ashley's mind at rest.
Come again?
Yes, this is shit. When Emily gets home, she finds a gift from David. It's a book, so now she's forgiven him too. Later, we see David in his car with Emily's friend Michelle, and they kiss. When David drops her off, he's like, you're a pretty shit friend, aren't you? Hooking up with your friend's boyfriend.
But you just...
You're not going to tell Emily about this, are you?
So Michelle gets out of the car crying. Does this plot seem familiar to anyone? An orphan kid called David from the wrong side of the tracks gets involved with an innocent girl from a nice family, gets possessive, assaults a guy who talks to her, and gets it on with her best friend. No? Okay. First thing next morning, Michelle goes round to Emily's house and says, I'm really sorry, but I hooked up with David. So Emily tells her to leave. When she leaves for school, Emily sees that David's in her house. She's like, you need to piss off David. When he starts arguing, Ashley comes over and threatens to call the police. So he leaves. At school, Mrs. Stein tells Emily that a friend from USC can meet her after school for coffee. Emily looks miserable, and Mrs. Stein asks what's wrong. Emily's like, oh, it's David, he's stalking me. So later, Mrs. Stein confronts him.
You need to leave her alone,
Or what?
or I will call the authorities.
He's like, okay, I'll leave her alone then. Cut to the stock footage cafe where Emily's meeting Frank, Mrs. Stein's friend from USC. The meeting's going really well, but oh no, David's crashed it. Frank thinks this is all a bit weird, so he walks off. So that's that ruined. Later that night, Mrs. Stein calls Frank and asks how it went, and he tells her about David joining in. But oh no, David's followed her to her car and stabs her, so she's dead. The next day at school, Emily's forgiven Michelle because she's seen how weird David is. Why does that excuse her behaviour? No idea, but it does. And oh no, David's watching and listening from the deep cover of a Lifetime bush. Then this extra who's been given a line comes over and delivers the performance of her life.
Oh my God, did you guys hear what happened? Mrs. Stein,
What about her?
she's dead.
When Emily gets home, Ashley's like, what's wrong?
You look like someone died.
Someone did.
Who died?
Mrs. Stein.
Are you kidding?
And she's like, yeah, no, she is actually dead. She was stabbed in a parking lot. Then Ashley sees David outside the house, so she goes to deal with him.
Leave my daughter alone.
David's not taking this well, so he sends Emily a video message.
You know, Emily, I just don't get it. Why are you pretending like the last week didn't happen? I'm your first and only Valentine, for sake, Emily. I just don't get it, Emily. We're connected.
Wonder what he means by that. At school the next day, Emily shows Michelle the video message.
This guy is a total freak.
And Emily's like, yeah, I know. I need to work out why he's so obsessed with me, so I'm going to find out everything I can about him. So Michelle distracts the principal while Emily goes into her office and takes photos of David's file. She calls David's old school, but they say they can't give information out over the phone to total strangers.
Obviously.
When Ashley gets to work, her office has been trashed. Obviously it was David, but this is the Lifetime universe, so Detective Rick, yes, that's his name, can't do anything.
I will look into it a bit, see what I find.
Wow, thanks. Cut to Emily, who's broken into David's house and looks on his laptop, where she instantly finds his psychiatric evaluation. I can only assume it was on his home screen. Anyway, David had a nervous breakdown when his mum killed herself, and he never knew his dad. But hang on, there's a picture of his dad here. What is that? He looks like a garbage pail kid. That can't possibly be a real person. Who made that? This is shit. Anyway, that thing is also Emily's dad. So David is Emily's half-brother.
Yes, of course. Now things are beginning to make sense.
Oh no, David's home. It's okay though, Emily manages to escape. She goes home and tells her mum that David's her half-brother. Ashley's like, no way. Then Emily shows her that ridiculous photo from earlier.
There's definitely a resemblance.
Really?
Yes, that's because the person who made this badly photoshopped David's face onto whoever this is. But oh no, David's at the door.
Let me in! So let me in the fucking house!
It's okay though, the police have arrived, so David runs away. The police have reported this to the mental hospital, and they'll be coming to town tomorrow to collect David. Why aren't they coming today? Well, because plot. Emily and Ashley will be safe tonight though, because Detective Rick is going to be guarding the house. Oh, come on. David ties Ashley up and tells Emily that he's angry because she had the perfect childhood and his was crap. So he wants one perfect family dinner before killing them and himself. But Ashley's managed to untie herself and get her gag round David's neck.
Good work.
This causes David to drop the gun, and Ashley picks it up.
Shoot me!
Then Ms. Connolly walks in. Why? No idea, but that's what's happening.
It looks like you picked the wrong Valentine.
Yeah! So he's dead, and that's the end of the film. So until next time. Thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe, and please consider joining my Patreon. There's a link in the description. Thank you.